So here we are with the Dalton. This is the main harness that we need. That's all sectioned off. These wires I had cut before. I kind of regret cutting them, but it is what it is. So I left them out in the bunch here. And then as you can see, we follow it down. And we've got these wires sectioned off. So these are the ignition wires. We're going to put a connector here. And these are the injector wires, also same deal. We're going to put a connector here. And then here is the rest of the harness for most of the optional stuff. These are the ones that we did last week. These are the ones that aren't required on our setup. So we're going to leave them over there. We're probably going to use these for wires to extend. Hopefully, the main one on this one that I'm concerned about is this one. This one's shielded wire for the distributor, basically. So I'm kind of concerned about that one, but we'll see how that goes. As you can see, these are all black wires. These obviously are going to ground. And so the way it works is that these need a really good ground. The reason that is because the ECU, most ECUs only do a low side output, meaning that they ground something. So you've got to have key on power to the other side of the relay, and then something in this harness will ground it. This is everything, including injectors, coils, and everything. It's all grounded, so remember that. Power supplied from the main relay, and then the ECU grounds everything. So these have to have a really, really good ground, otherwise you'll short out the ECU. So hopefully today we're going to get everything passed through and then kind of go from there. As you can guys see here, the wires are already passed through. Here's the group of grounds and then all of our harness here. I was able to get it through the where the choke cable came out of. There's not a grommet on it yet. I don't know if I'll be able to get one in there, to be honest with you. So it's not ideal. So if we walk over here, you can it's extremely hard to see, but that's your cowl. This black tube right here is the cowl drain, and you can see where the choke cable came out. So basically remove the choke cable altogether, pass all the wires through there. This is not the final spot for the ECU. I'm probably trying to see if I can route it through the passenger side to sit over there, but not 100% yet. So we're gonna take a quick break here for lunch, and then we'll get back to it, try to figure out where we can actually put the connectors here. So what'll happen next is I'll unplug the connectors off the ECU, see if I can route it anywhere, and then move the ECU. Now we've got to mount this first before we start trimming wires or adding wires up there, because obviously if we move this around and it no longer fits or whatever, that's going to be a pain in the ass. So we're going to get that done here shortly. So hopefully everything goes well. So this is obviously the harness. This is the wires that I am hoping that are not too short. So this is the cam wire, the distributor wiring, and a couple other things here. And then this is all the this right here is the optional wiring that's branched off right here. These wires are for the optional coils, and then these four here are for our injectors right here. So the general routing is essentially going to run the harness this way, and then it'll just branch off to wherever it needs to go. So that's kind of the tentative routing, but it's not 100% yet. So what I'll do is I'll start to route everything without connecting anything, just to simply route it, and then just see if I'm happy with how everything looks. If everything looks good to me, then we'll start finalizing our wires. Obviously we've got to do the ECU mounting first, and then we can do everything else. So off camera, I had a little bit of time, so I went ahead and built my fuse box here. So we've got all our relays and fuses here. So we've got the main relay, fuel pump, fuel injectors, and coils for when that time comes, and then the fan and fuel pump relay. So this is not what we'll be using on the actual production unit. This is just something to get my car going, but all this spaghetti here is all that. So these black wires here, there's a few black wires, those are all grounded. So those are going to be for the main relay. The main relay in turn sends power to the fuel injector and coil relay, And so the black wires are all just ground, and then these colored ones are the inverse. So the fan, fuel pump, all those two are grounded from the ECU. So then we've got 12 volt power on the other side. All these reds go to battery. So a little confusing, but once you actually start doing it or understand how our relay works, you'll have an idea. And that's our current pinout as always for all this. And so this fuse box I bought off of Amazon. I bought one that was just pins, so I could wire it up myself, just because that most of the ones that are already wired are only designed solely for 12 volt input, but some of ours are 12 volt input and ground inputs. So, you know, being able to build your own makes it's a bit more work obviously, but it's a lot easier, you know, when it comes down to that. But so that's kind of where this is at now. So we're going to mount this, figure out where to mount this, run all the wires to it, and then we can get going. So we've got the relay box poorly wired up, as per usual, right? We've got the ECU hooked up to we have the ECU hooked up to the computer. So if we key it on, fuel pump should prime. Perfect. Okay, so that's what we wanted to hear. So now we're gonna actually start hooking up the injectors. So we have the ECU hooked up to the main relay, which is also shared with the injectors. So now we should be able to hook up the injectors from the ECU side, and then that should be like enough to start it. So we've got a couple sensors that we need to hook up, but the IAT and CLT aren't super duper important to get it to start again. So we'll get this all wired up poorly again. So the goal is basically to get it wired up and started again, and then just kind of see how all the routing falls into place. And then if everything looks good, we'll start shortening and cleaning everything up. So for now, basically we're gonna hook up just the injectors, TPS, coolant temp, IAT, all those three will wait. So we just need TPS and the distributor, or the coil hooked up, and then we should be ready to start. And then we start adding everything else. Fan's not hooked up yet. The reason why I haven't hooked it up yet is, one, it's actually kind of cold here right now, but the wiring is down there and it's extremely short. So I don't want to wire that up until I have the fuse box in its final location, and I'll route that. So I use the power probe to test everything, and it should be working functionality wise, so we should be good there. Okay, so I have this wired up a little bit differently than what the manual tells you. So this is A, B, C, and D, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4 respectively. So according to the manual on the ECU, you're supposed to actually wire this in your firing order position here, so it should be 1, 3, 4, 2. So I'm not really sure if that really matters. I put it like how the firing order should be based off of how I wired it up. And we're gonna see if it'll start that way. If not, then I'll go back and wire it. So I only have it all twisted up, so nothing's actually like in place anyways. I went ahead and I tested it. I tested it off camera, but so you can hear it clicking. I'll switch injectors from A to B, and B's now clicking, so I can unplug it and then it'll go away. So I tested them all 4 off camera already just to be sure, but go ahead and do that again. So we're gonna make sure that the distributor is hooked up, and then we should be able to fire it up. All right, so distributor looks good. I had to extend out the shielded harness, so I'm not sure if we're gonna get RPM signal. Hopefully we do. Let's try to find out here. Okay, so we definitely got RPM there. We did get a spike in it, but not a huge deal. TPS is not hooked up. Coolant temp's not hooked up, so everything's on this default value. So I don't actually anticipate that it's going to run, just due to all the sensors being out and delivering so much fuel. So we're gonna bring this down to 40 just really quick. Go ahead and hit burn and see if it'll fire up or not. All right, so it will run-ish, But so that's good to go there. That means the extended harness that I did on the shielded wire is good to go. Let's check if we have any sync errors actually before I say that for a fact. Okay, it took me a little bit to find it, but it is the lost sync reason here. So this will tell us if there's any other codes, if you will. Okay, so it's happy there. No issues there. So we should be good to go. It seems like it runs decent. I'll leave the injector wiring as is just to be on the safe side, and then I'll go ahead and I will get the TPS and coolant temp hooked up and go from there. Alright, we got it running pretty decent. It's still on the rich side, not because of the smell, but because I can actually see the smoke coming out of it. So we're gonna see if we can pull some fuel out of this, even though this is not right, but it'll give us a good baseline. Just kind of see where we're at here. So it seems to be really seems all right here. It's probably gonna bog, probably be too lean. Yeah. All right. So as you can see, we've got it to idle somewhat decent. I'm not gonna mess with this anymore. That's good enough for there. So we'll go ahead and start wiring up the coolant temp, IAT, and the TPS, most importantly. Get that all wired up, and then at that point we'll try to hook up our wideband, and then we should be able to go from there.